Sit down if you want to.
Right in the middle of what's going on.
I'm in the middle of an interrogation.
Take a seat, young Skywalker.
The middle children of history, man.
Middle of the day, Alfred.
Please, take a seat there.
Right now, I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Stop the middle, it's a base hit!
Meeting in the middle.
Fight.
They fought for the freedom of
Middle.
the middle of
The middle of a
war! This is freaking ridiculous!
Why don't we have a seat to talk it over?
No! Not the middle seat!
It's time once again to have a marvelous time on the Middle Seats podcast, the best seat in the house for all things movies and entertainment. I'm your host. Welcome back to the show, Andrew Auger. Let's meet the panelists for today. You want to give him 10 rings and propose over and over again, Mr. Nate Lungarini.
How we doing, everybody? Been a bit, but missed you all and happy to be back on the mic here.
And his opinions are the subject of my venom most of the time, Mr. Jake Hensler.
Oh, a little
like
wordplay. Yeah, good to be back. My long hiatus has ended. I'm very excited to be here talking about movies again. I haven't seen that much, but I'm very excited to talk about the ones that I have seen.
That's good. Good. Set the bar very low to start. Let's do it.
Oh, so low. We just got to step over it and try not to trip.
Well, we won't have any Star Wars talk here. Get that Solo shit out of here. This is Marvel.
Yeah, and we've got the two Marvel movies of the fall season to talk to you about today. We're going to break format a little bit because we're playing a little bit of catch-up with some of our reviews. So today is going to be primarily a 1-2 double review. The first part, we're going to talk about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, the proper MCU movie, and then we're going to talk about the Marvel movie, Venom, There Be Carnage, which of course is the sequel to the 2018 original, which we reviewed on the show a long time ago at a galaxy far, far away. There you go. We'll get a little bit of Star Wars in there.
Nate is white-knuckling his mouse after just saying no Star Wars talk.
Yeah.
Just to spite me.
Well, we've got a lot to get through, so let's jump right into our review of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
The Ten Rings gave our family power. If you want them to be yours one day, you have to show me you are strong enough to carry them.
You are a product of all who came before you.
I told my men they wouldn't be able to kill you if they tried. Glad I was right. Is this what you wanted?
Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and that's probably the last time I'm going to say the full title because you get the point. It's directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who has kind of built his career based on a bunch of indie films. Specifically, he works a lot with Brie Larson on movies like Short Term 12 and The Glass Castle. He most recently worked on Just Mercy, which is this courtroom legal drama that got a little bit of awards buzz back in 2019, I believe. He jumps on the MCU. This is the 25th MCU movie. As of right now, it is the highest grossing movie of 2021, beating out fellow MCU movie Black Widow. I expect that will continue to serve until the next MCU movie comes along, because that's how things go, is that they just kind of high-five each other and pass each other like ships in the night for the top of the box office supremacy.
Basically just a relay race. All right, I finished up all my money. Here you go. All right, here's another $300 million. Here you go.
Literally handing off the baton. It's a self-high-five every time. It has a primarily Asian cast. It's kind of the Black Panther for Asians in the MCU. Simu Liu is the star. He stars as Shang-Chi, who goes by Sean in the real world. He's forced to confront his past. He used to be a part of this organization with his father Wenwu, played by the legendary actor Tony Leung, who he's the Wenwu is the leader of the Ten Rings organization. He kind of is the MCU's proper version of the Mandarin, which of course is a very popular comic book character. Shang-Chi has run away from that. He lives a secluded life with his friend Katie, played by Awkwafina, in San Francisco, and that life comes back to him, and basically it's about him confronting his father and confronting what it means to be a hero with extreme martial arts skills and eventually certain superpowers that we'll go into. Some of the other actors, like I said, Simu Liu, Awkwafina, Mohar Chung, Tony Leung, Falo Chen, Florian Munteau, Benedict Wong, of course, reprising his role as Wong from Doctor Strange, and then Michelle Yeoh, another classic and beloved Asian actress. So this is kind of an MCU goes into the realm of martial arts for the first time. There's been a lot of positive reception to this one. I think I would say that the reception has definitely been more forthcoming and warm than it was towards Black Widow earlier in the year. I think that's an easy thing for me to say. Now, the question is, what did we think about it? And what do we think of it as an origin movie, as the latest installment in the MCU, what it means for the future? Nate Lungarini, what did you think of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings?
Alrighty, yeah. So, I very much enjoyed this one. It very much felt like a firecracker to me, where it went off in a bang with probably one of the best action scenes I've seen in any Marvel movie, period. And then a pretty darn good and creative action scene maybe 20 minutes later. The first and second acts of this movie are really strong, and it's carried a lot on the two leads. There's Simu Liu playing our titular character, Shang-Chi, and then Tony Leung as the father, who's kind of the main antagonist, has this really cool dynamic, and this is probably the closest we've seen to like a big boss character before in Marvel without all of the hubbub that Thanos got. It reminded me a lot of Kingpin from the Daredevil season, where it's just like, this is somebody you do not want to mess with, and you can tell just based on the company he keeps and all that stuff, even before you start seeing him do all of his own moves too. All in all, had a really good time with the setup of this movie. Where it petered off a little bit and the firecracker kind of ran out of fuel was the third act for me. I might be the odd man out on this part, but for me personally, it started so strong and so clean cut that when we finally got around to the part where the movie needs to give you exposition again and explain what's going on, it lost its luster and lost a lot of momentum too. The movie really took a hard pause. All in all, though, for Marvel fans, rejoice. You've already seen the movie maybe twice by now, by the time this comes out. But it was a very strong start to continue Phase 4 with the MCU.
Yeah, there's a lot of explaining to do in the movie, period, because this, Jake, spans across like 25 to 30 years of Shang-Chi's life and has to go into a lot of mythology and backstory of a corner of the MCU that we just haven't seen before. It's kind of similar to Black Panther. If Black Panther didn't have like an initial introduction in Civil War. So it's got to start completely from scratch. What do you think of the movie in general, Jake? And then how do you think it balanced telling this story that actually has a lot of layers to it?
Yeah, Shang-Chi is a rock solid, really fun time from beginning to end. It's never dull. Like, usually there's a standout action sequence that's like primarily better than the others. You know, like Civil War, obviously the airport fight scene is the big one, but there's multiple good ones. Shang-Chi, I feel like, was really consistent as far as action goes. But another thing I really liked about it is how it kind of balances like living in this world and like dealing with, you know, his daddy issues, I guess. But then it also dives into kind of like a fable-esque, almost fairy tale like story, and then it blends them together toward the end. And I thought all of them, all of it was really, really fun, really, really engaging. Like, it's probably, I'd have to look at the rankings. It's probably in my top 10 Marvel. It's right around there. But that's like, there's so many movies that are fighting for those top 10 spots. That's a compliment. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many good Marvel movies now. They have yet to fail, in my opinion. But yeah, Shang-Chi is upper, if not upper middle. So I know like Marvel can be a little bit formulaic, but I still feel like they're giving enough independent and creative freedom to the point where like we've seen this play out a little bit before, but it's still so fresh. They're able to do that time and time again. And I don't know, I'm just so impressed. Like, the acting was consistently good. The action was really top notch. This might be one of the best action movies Marvel has, because every sequence was really, really well done. And the villain ended up deeper than I thought. He's not just, 10 rings, really powerful, more power, manja manja. Like, there's more to it. And that made him more compelling, which I think that movie needed. So then, yeah, just really, really no complaints. Like, rock solid from start to finish. Really good time.
There is something to be said for the excitement of the start of something new. Like, we are so ingrained now, 24 movies in the MCU, and we know a lot of the familiar characters, and we've grown to love and followed them across their arcs. But it's kind of nice to start from scratch somewhere every once in a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we've been talking about that's what the MCU is going to have to do with movies like this and Eternals, specifically if we're talking about this year. They're going to have to start at square one and like reintroduce new and exciting fresh things. Like if you think about the history of the MCU, that kind of happened already when we had 10 to 11 MCU movies, and then the Guardians of the Galaxy were added, and they added a new jolt. And then you added all the Black Panther characters, and you added the Ant-Man characters, and so on and so forth. They've been doing this consistently, and I think this is one of their best introductions of a new, basically if we're coloring in the annals of the history of the MCU, this is a new section that we start. And it's one of the more exciting sections because this movie is as solid of an origin story as they've ever told. It might be, I'm trying to think of like pure origin stories that the MCU has done, and I think the only one that rivals it is the original Iron Man.
That's what I was thinking.
Because like there's a difference between a solo movie and an origin movie. Like I think I like Black Panther better than this film, but that's not an origin movie. Obviously, that just introduces us to the world. This is a straight up origin story.
Do you count Guardians of the Galaxy as origin?
I guess you could. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first time we're seeing those characters.
And it's the origin of the team, too. So I think that would actually count. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so then I would say there's two, in my opinion, that rival it, but like good company, you know what I mean?
Right. And I think what sets it apart is everything you guys are saying. It's got this dense mythology. It's got this really compelling conflict between hero and villain that both strengthens the hero and the villain. Like, God, this movie knows
100%.
that Tony Leung is its greatest asset, and it uses it to great advantage. There's a reason that so much of the prologue is, designed around his character, and so much of what happens and how Shang-Chi is forced to become the Shang-Chi that will eventually, hopefully, help the Avengers. It's centered around him dealing with this personal trauma. Anytime you do a father-son thing, it's already compelling, but this movie does it really well.
Amen to that.
And it's just a super entertaining, great action, like you guys are saying, very good direction, and very good craftsmanship in coordinating these fight sequences. But there's the reason it all works is fight sequences with nothing behind it is one thing. The emotional conflict of this movie and the introduction of all the different characters is what really sold it for me. It genuinely made me excited to see what comes next from these specific sets of characters. And you can't always say that for the MCU stuff. Like I walked out of like the Ant-Man movies and I was like, yeah, I'll hang out with them again. But I wouldn't say I'm 100% excited to hang out with them. You know what I mean? Like they're fun. These characters, I cannot wait for their next adventure. And that is such a thumbs up. And I would agree with Jake that I would say it's upper echelon of MCU movies. It's definitely in my top 10. I think I had it at number 6 or 7 last I checked. I just think it delivers so well on what it's trying to do. And we've had so many times where we've kind of had I think Black Widow was a good example where we kind of justified like, yeah, that was good, but I don't know what my expectations for it were, and I don't know if it lived up to those expectations. I had very clear set goals for this, and it not only reached them, but basically exceeded them.
I would say pretty much ditto that. It was about as good as I was hoping it would be. I feel like Marvel's, in my opinion, reaching this point where I have like numerous 7, 7.5, 8 out of 10s, and then only a few that fall below 7 and 6.5, and only a few that get to like 8.5, 9. Most of them are in that 7 to 8 range, and this is like a really rock solid 8, along with Black Panther and a bunch of other ones. Like it's right in there with most of their really good movies. Like they're just consistently, they're like a machine. They just keep turning out rock solid movie after rock solid movie, and then maybe there's just a decent one, and then there's another rock solid one. It's kind of insane, but it's so impressive in that they're able to do cultural ones like this too, like this in Black Panther. They're able to keep upping the game and still making it Marvel. Like you can tell this is a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Even though it's got its own twist and it's got its own style to it, it's still Marvel, which I don't know. I think that's so impressive.
And some would say that's for better or worse. And Nate, it seems like you were kind of leading towards that way when you were kind of hinting at any kind of issues you might have, particularly with the third act. Where I mean, like, these movies have reputations for having very specific problems, and that a lot of them have the same problems. And that's one of the things that a lot of people critique movies about, which is the Marvel movies about, which is like they build to a certain point, and then they're all just big CGI extravaganzas by the end.
Yep. And I think I can't really get into too deep about that until we move into spoilers, if we're ready to do that.
Yeah, I think all the points I have, if I have issues that aren't spoiler laden, I think I want to discuss a little bit more about the structure of the story, because there's a lot of different flashbacks that are interspliced. And I think an issue for me is in that middle third. We got a little bit of a pacing issue. Did any of you guys feel that? Because we're going back in time and current time and back in time, and it's all compelling stuff. It's just a matter of the presentation of the material that I had an issue with.
It's like that scene from the Purge episode of Rick and Morty, where he's like, "I think we should start our stories where they begin," and it's a complete opposite here, where I feel like we went back and forth between past, present, maybe 5 times in 20 minutes. It might have almost been cleaner to just say, all right, here's all the past stuff in one big burst, and here's how it matters to the present, or something like that.
Or maybe even just 2 chunks, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we go back like 4 or 5 times. Like I said, it's not bad stuff at all. It's all very important to the narrative. It's just like, it's choppy, you know? It kills the momentum of what's going on in the present day a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it didn't, for me, that didn't really dampen the movie, but like maybe it would have heightened it if it was a little bit better. But I didn't really have a problem with that, but I do hear what you guys are saying.
Well, let's get into our ratings and then move into spoilers, because there's a lot to discuss, especially with the second half of this film.
Yeah.
If you are just joining us for the first time, we rate movies based on the seat scale. If we love a movie, think it has no flaws, we give it a royal throne. If we think a movie is fantastic, has minimal flaws, we give it a plush recliner. If we think a movie is solid but has some decent flaws, we give it a wooden seat. If we think a movie is bad but has some okay things, damp lawn chair. And if we think a movie's horrible, we give it a sleazy outhouse. If we think you should see it in theaters, we put a little bag of popcorn check mark next to our ratings. So Jake, what would you rate Shang-Chi?
Easy plush recliner. Like, it's no masterpiece, but it's like one of those movies that's, is it amazing? I wouldn't go that far, but how many flaws does it have? Like, very few. It's just, it knows what it wants to be. It's successful in that vision. And it's just so much fun from start to finish. It's very creative. We're going to be talking about the action a lot because, wow, the choreography. There's a couple scenes in Winter Soldier. There's a couple scenes in Civil War as far as like fight choreography goes. But man, Shang-Chi is going to give them all a run for their money. There's a couple in here. Like I remember when it first came out, Twitter was like, oh, that one scene from Shang-Chi. And I walked out of the theater like, which one? There was a couple that I was very impressed with. Like,
yeah. And I think we should be clear. It's different style fighting from what we usually get from the MCU. This is hand-to-hand stuff.
Oh, yeah. And I love a good hand-to-hand combat fight scene. Like this might be unpopular. I actually don't know, but it might be. I don't think the Bourne fight sequences are that great because he tries to like follow every punch and then I don't know what's going on. This type of hand-to-hand fight combat scenes, oh my goodness. I was just so impressed the whole time. Easy plus recliner. This should be seen in theaters or the best screen possible.
Boy, what a stray shot to the Jason Bourne franchise. Matt Damon just minding his own business at home.
Yeah, that's like a 2-decade-old Ricochet at this point.
Yeah, right, for real.
That's always what I think of. Those movies are very beloved, and when I finally sat down and watched them, I was a little disappointed with the fight styles. But
different time.
Yeah, digressed.
Nate?
Yeah, I think way back when we gave Captain Marvel a look-see, I gave that one a plush recliner, and I think for consistency's sake, I'll give this one a plush recliner as well. I'd put it probably a step or 2 above Marvel. I don't know where this is my great pantheon of MCU films.
All 25
I don't keep
now.
Lists the same way that you do, Drew. And that's a knock on me, not a knock on you.
You mean a step or 2 above Captain Marvel, or?
Yes, correct. Yeah. I really, really like the first half of this movie. I really like the father-son dynamic that we talked about. And I absolutely adored the action scenes that we've been talking about. It reminded me a lot of old school Jackie Chan, which we don't see a lot in Hollywood, especially American Hollywood. So it's really, really exciting to get really creative fight choreography going on in here. And we haven't even like talked about the superhero aspect of this too much. Like I've complained about DC for having superpowered characters that equate to just punching and kicking things really hard. That's all that Shang-Chi is supposed to really be able to do at the beginning of this movie is just punch and kick and do all this stuff. But the way they go about it is so creative that it brings that Marvel spin that I bring up every time we talk about superhero movies. And it's just using their powers and abilities in ways that I've never seen put to screen before. And it works. Absolutely does. So, plush recliner, Very much enjoyed it. I wish the third act held up to the first act, but I will take what I can get, and this is a very good get.
You know, the upper echelon of these MCU movies, most of them, like a Thor Ragnarok, which is just lulls all the time, and for good reason. A lot of them are built on this great foundation of a story, and I'm sure Kevin Feige will say this at any TED Talk that you ever see him give, wherever it is, in front of the investors or in front of all the fans. He'll say that they start with the story and then build to the action and the Easter eggs and the MCU connections from there. And a lot of the times you kind of look at him, you're like, this is kind of bullshit. I don't know how much you worked on the story for Thor: The Dark World. You just like the dark elves. This really feels like, for Shang-Chi, the way that they scripted it and the way that they designed it, they had a great idea for a story and how to integrate all the elements around it. So, for example, if we're talking about like Captain America: The Winter Soldier, that is built on the paranoia of spy work and how surveillance is changing in the modern day. And the movie takes that point and runs with it. Black Panther is about legacy and how to use power and how to, obviously, it's got a big racial tie to how to help your people without causing violence. This one is built on the great foundation. It's basically just the story of this family that's been broken and absolutely destroyed by tragedy and by ambitions and by selfishness. Just a horrific past. And all of those characters coming back to play at once. And the movie does such a really good job at divulging the information and the conflict between Shang-Chi and Wenwu, because that's where the heart of this movie is, and that's where the conflict of this movie really shines. And that's what makes it an upper tier MCU movie. Beyond all the great action and direction and the fantastic cinematography by Bill Pope, longtime cinematographer. And, you know, it's really funny too. The movie, we haven't even mentioned that it's a really funny one of these too. It's a really entertaining work, but it has more to it than you would expect as well. And that's what put it up for me. I'm not going Royal Throne, but it is a very, very, very strong plush recliner. If you're an MCU fan, this is a must-see. And like Jake said, you've already seen it. But let's move into our spoilers. If you have not seen Shang-Chi, go see it. We all recommend it. If you have, join us in spoilers.
Whoa! Oh, spoiler alert!
Spoiler! Spoiler!
Excuse me! Spoiler alert!
So I think, really, the action scene that a lot of people are highlighting is the fight on the trolley, right?
Hell to the yes.
Sick.
The bus scene.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Sick. And I like that there was a point where it could have definitively ended, and they let it go a bit further, and I was like, that's fine. Let it go. Mm-hmm. That's fine.
Absolutely. Yeah. The way he uses the environment, like he's swinging around the poles, he's catching the knife and whatnot in his jacket, and then tying up the guy in it in like this super sleek motion. Everything about that was just high adrenaline. Oh my God, I can't wait to see what he's going to do next for the entirety of that. Probably 5-7 minutes tops. All while the bus is rolling down a hill. Like, just awesome setup and paid off in dividends. I really, really appreciated the movie for that, and all the stunt coordinators that had to work that hard to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The main stunt coordinator of this movie, it's kind of a bittersweet success for this film, because I know a person who had like a big part, and I'm trying to find his name so I could be respectful. Brad Allen was his name. He was a noted stunt coordinator, and he helped design all the fight scenes, and he sadly passed away. He had such a big hand in designing how the hand-to-hand combat works, and he worked with Daniel Cretton to kind of showcase the action best they could in the space that they had. And it really pays off with that action scene on the bus and in the scaffolding fight that comes later when they eventually go to Asia.
Did you like that one more, Jake?
I don't know. There's literally like 4+ that I can think of that make me go, like, just very, very cool. I love the trolley fight scene because the little kid in me, like, you could just tell somebody was just getting as creative as they possibly could in this little environment, and it works so well. Yes, use the pole. Yes, cut it in half. Yes, it's running away and you have to veer left. Yes, you have to save the grandma. Yes, all of it works at every single moment. And you could see the effort put into it too, because that's a tight space. That could not have been easy to film. That could not have been easy to pull off, and they pulled it off so well. But then same with the scaffolding one. Like, everything is going to turn out fine because he's our hero and we're just meeting him. But there were points when they're on the scaffolding fight that I was slightly tense. Like, oh shit, this is crazy. This is really awesome.
Right. Well, they let him take a punch every once in a while. He's not perfect.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Right. It's a John Wick formula, I guess, in that sense, where he's winning, but he's getting beat up the entire time.
He's not like walking home like feeling okay.
Right. Well, the days of the 80s action stars, and we've talked about this on the show before, where the heroes go in and 30,000 people are shooting at them, and they like the most they get is a graze of the bullet on the shoulder. Like, that's over. Like, people like to see their heroes get up and, get punched,
Yeah, the scaffolding fight's really creative too. I think I prefer the bus scene to it if I had to pick, but they are darn close. And again, the fact that this all happens in the first 40 minutes of the movie, give or take, is awesome.
Yeah, if you weren't hooked before.
Yeah, I don't think there's been any Marvel movie that adrenaline packed before. Like, maybe Infinity War, just because things get going so quick.
Oh well, yeah. There's a fight scene every 4 minutes, but
yeah. But that's an ensemble, like, straight out of comic book movie. This is characters we've never seen before, and like you said, Jake, I'm gripping the edge of my seat. I'm biting my nails. Like, oh my god, what's he gonna do next?
Yeah,
this guy has a knife for an arm. It's insane.
Yeah, and even as long as we're talking about action, so everybody always says that a lot of choreography is just really like dances, like fight scenes. They're choreographed movements that are like planned and being used in the moment. So like everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows what to do next, where we're going. But the fight scene when the main villain is trying to get into Ta Lo and he ends up kind of getting beat. It's a fight scene, but it's also a dance. You see them in conflict, but also like interested with each other. And then obviously they end up married. I liked that scene a lot.
Very Mr. and Mrs. Smith vibes.
Oh, you're talking about the prologue. Yeah. Yeah, totally. No, it's a courtship. Yeah.
I thought that was a really awesome fight / getting to know these characters scene. And then that also enhances the villain. That makes him more... Because like when you first introduced him, I was like, all right, he's cool, but I hope he's not just a power-hungry maniac, because we've had that more than once already. And it makes him so much deeper. It makes him that much more interesting when we find out his backstory, what his motives are. Like, not that I agree with him, but you kind of understand where he's coming from, even if he's a little crazy. Like, that all adds to this movie quite a bit.
Yeah. And I know I kind of talked a little bit about the pacing and how it's choppy, but I think the first 45 to 50 minutes of this movie are like... flawless sounds a little strong, but for what it needs to accomplish, it's stellar. First of all, and we need to talk... We haven't really talked about Awkwafina at all. The three of us have a difference of opinion on her in general. And I think she does... I think she acquits herself really well in this movie, but her character is important because she is the audience perspective. So when Shang-Chi starts kicking the shit out of people on the bus, we are just as surprised as she is. And, that information starts to get slowly divulged. And it's a good introduction to what the ride is going to be for the rest of this movie. And the prologue does a really good job at that too, Jake. You're absolutely right, because it's setting up Wenwu as a villain that is more compelling beyond just the conflict for Shang-Chi. I think it's very telling that the movie starts with him and not with Simu Liu.
Yeah. But I think it's worthy and it's effective because it comes, even though, Nate, I want to dissect this third act with you a little bit, but in the third act, it comes full circle from the prologue to the ending. Like I think that all makes sense to have your villain who's, 1,000 years old in the prologue, establish him,
more, yeah,
and then get to your hero. Yeah, I thought that made a lot of sense.
Yeah, I loved Wenwu as the villain. I think he stole every scene he was in, and he was competing with some pretty charismatic people. But the way that he just commands respect, and the fact that he's just such a goddamn good actor. Holy shit, Tony Leung, where the hell have you been? I need to watch more of your movies.
I was going to say, he's been around.
Oh my God. He was iconic. He was amazing. And again, he complex because the entire time he's coming from his own version of justice, which is, I need to get vengeance for my wife / find my wife. I think she's being held captive. And my family doesn't understand what I know. And I want them to be involved because this is their mother too. I think that's such a cool dynamic too. Like, he kind of sort of forces them into this adventure, but the way that he speaks to them compels them to want to figure out the mystery too. It's not just like, oh my god, Dad's dragging me on family road trip. It is
it's not the Goofy movie.
And that just made for such a complicated, cool character.
Yeah.
And that fight at the end between Shang-Chi and Wenwu was spectacular. Like, them battling for the rings and going off on that.
Yeah, I like that.
I love that.
There's a lot that you can say about the character's progression. The whole thing is really just a tragedy. Like, he was a warlord for so long, and it's the story of a guy who, like, tried to go straight, fell in love, tried to have a family, and then completely relapsed when that family was slightly taken away from him because of the mistakes he made in the past. It's like he can't help himself. He's corrupted by the power. You know, that makes what Shang-Chi is going through so compelling, because it's like, well, what's it going to be like father, like son? And, of course, his hero journey is to prove that, no, he is going to be a protector, not a murderer.
Right.
But then we transition to the third act, where everything comes to a head, and we introduce Michelle Yeoh's character, and Shang-Chi's sister, who we haven't even really mentioned, plays a pivotal role here, gets more involved in the action. Trevor Slattery's there, Ben Kingsley's character from Iron Man 3, along with Morris, the not-faced thing. How would you describe what Morris is?
It's
I don't know.
a spirit animal. It looks like a stuffed pillow with 6 legs and wings.
He's with all faceless, hairy, flying Kirby thing.
He's all donk, no face.
Remember the little the Ottoman dog thing in Beauty and the Beast? It's like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
There you go.
Yeah.
We like him.
Yeah. He was cute. Ben Kingsley coming back was a fun little aha to the fans, but ultimately inconsequential.
It ends up being consequential because he takes them. He's able to get them back to where Michelle Yeoh is. But yeah, they could have written him out.
Screenwritten that in a million different ways. They put Ben Kingsley there for the fans. So Talo is interesting. Like, it's this whole new world. You can definitely tell that the animators and the graphic artists had a good time making it and creating all the creatures that actually look pretty good. There have definitely been some green screeny CGI moments in Marvel movies in the past and present. But this one did a really cool job just creating this very green environment after so much of this movie takes place in stone and city landscapes and in the dark. So it was a cool, colorful change of pace there. The issue with the third act is that there's so much exposition that needs to happen. And this is the point where the movie's supposed to be climaxing. And we have to go through, like, this whole museum tour of, like, oh, yeah, there's these evil soul-sucking monsters, and they can speak through dreams, and that's why your father's been hearing what he is. Also, we have dragons. Also, here's all this special armor. Also, here's what she is. It's just so much. And I get that you need to set things up, but the whole bit with, like, the soul sucker demons felt just so extra to me. This story had such a clear and concise battle between father and son and differences of ideals and what they perceived as truth. We did not need to have the CGI monster fest and have Awkwafina learn how to shoot a bow and then be amazing at it literally half a day later.
I agree with that. That's a little pet peeve of mine.
She's there. What are they going to have her do? She can't just stand around.
No, I know. It's got to make sense, though.
Yeah, but you could have given more for the sister character to do, too. She doesn't get a whole ton to do as soon as the dragons come out. And that's the part that I was like, this is a kaiju fight now, after we had that amazing battle between father and son. And I'm like, I don't need this anymore. I don't care about CGI kaiju fight. I care about Shang-Chi and the relationship with his father, and that just ended so abruptly.
And that's where Marvel giveth and Marvel taketh away. Somebody had an interesting point on Letterboxd, and they were like, and I don't know if I agree with this, but they basically said that these movies would be double as good if they cost half as much money. You kind of get the feeling that Marvel has $180 million to work with in the budget, the conflict can never be so small as just the two of them fighting. You know what I mean? We've gotten past that.
Pay your production assistants.
And like, and exactly that, Drew. Like the stakes need to get to world-ending heights because it's a Marvel movie, I guess. And this movie would have been so much better if it was just isolated to the family drama. It would have ended so much cleaner, in my opinion. I didn't need the giant evil bat dragon thing. Yeah. I didn't even really need the big dragon on the good side in that fight at all.
I'm partially with you. Like, I think the army of evil soul-sucking bat demon things was unnecessary. And I agree that, like, this is a pet peeve of mine when, like, somebody who's never fought before can all of a sudden shoot the killing blow with a bow and arrow, like, 24 hours later. I'm kind of with you. I'm just like, doesn't work like that. But I like that there's dragons in the MCU now, okay? Sue me. I thought it was cool. All right?
I'm okay with them existing. I just didn't need to dedicate 20 minutes of an action scene to them.
That's
when
fair.
all I want is the father characters to stay alive. And the fact that Zhu Wenwu is introduced and then taken away, meaning he's not going to come back for future Shang-Chi movies, that one hurts my soul, you know? We've kept around so many mediocre MCU villains to come back later whenever they feel like it. And we lost a really, really good one in the first movie they appeared in.
No, I hear what you're saying. I think the movie, like, also, it over-explains things a little bit. Like, we don't... All that exposition probably isn't necessary. Like, audiences kind of can just go with things sometimes.
Like, Chi, I think, is definitely one of those things that you could totally do.
Yeah. I was pretty wrapped up in that final act, so I'm okay with the decisions that they made and all of the different elements that were in play. But I definitely don't dispute anything you're saying either. One final thing I want to talk about before we move on, because we got to move on to our other review here.
Right, that one.
We talked about the integration of Ben Kingsley's character. Benedict Wong is basically in this movie for 45 seconds at the beginning, just so that they can bring him back for an admittedly very funny and very sweet mid-credit scene that also makes you excited for how Katie and Shang-Chi are going to be integrated into the MCU going forward. You know, it's like kind of a welcome to the team moment. And it's simple, but it's nice.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I can't wait to see the internet reactions keep rolling in about how Hulk is looking like Bruce Banner again. The simple explanation production-wise is that they're just tired of animating the Hulk for these movies. I'm sure that Mark Ruffalo wants to keep getting his FaceTime in.
Well, yeah.
It is a fun little moment.
Right. Well, I'm sure they'll have an answer for that in She-Hulk as well when that comes out.
I'm like kind of down to get like a 6-episode miniseries of like Wong and Abomination and their adventures. I'd watch that.
And any predictions for what the 10 rings are?
The only thing I'll say about the 10 rings is it can't be good news. So that's all I know.
There is a little fan theory floating out there. There's 10 rings and 10 like major celestial / eternal characters. And they specifically say that it's not any technology we've seen before. So that's my fairly easy prediction, but I'm going to go with it anyway, that 10 rings is somehow some sort of eternal / celestial technology.
Yeah. I mean, they got to find a way to make Eternals connect somehow beyond just...
Marvel doesn't do one-off standalone movies. Everything's connected, so yeah. You're probably right. You were right about the coral in Old. Anyway.
He's still on that, huh?
I will never be over that, because I yelled into the mic, I swear to God, if you're right. And then when they brought it up and swam to it, we're not talking about Old. Anyway.
Yeah, we got to move on. All
I'll never be over that.
You guys have one sentence to sum up your thoughts on Shang-Chi, and then we got to move on. It can be a run-on sentence, but it can only be one sentence. Jake, go ahead.
Oh, it's going to be run-on. Do you know me? Shang-Chi is super, super fun from start to finish. Very minimal issues. It's another really good line in a long line of Marvel movies. And it's also more than that. It's more than the action scenes. The story's really fun. It has that Asian culture, like fable, fairy tale kind of aspect that I personally am not that familiar with. So that was refreshing to me. And just good components all around. Good cast, good villain, good story, good graphics, good action. Like just top to bottom, just really, really good. If you somehow haven't seen it and you're a Marvel fan, yeah, you have to see this and you have to see it on a big screen.
Nate, one sentence.
That was one. I said and a few times.
No, that was not one sentence. That was
get
one
out of
paragraph.
here. Get out of here, Jake. Here's my sentence. I liked it. More, please.
Yeah. Entertaining, fun, has its issues. Top 10 Marvel movie. Go see it if you haven't seen it. All right. We got to move on. Let's move into our second review tonight of the sequel to Venom. Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
We should be out there snacking on bad guys.
You live in my body. You live by my rules.
I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. Please let me fix it so I can forget again.
Eddie Brock, I want to give you my story. All I ever wanted in this world is carnage. You feel like home to me. Like family.
Is anybody used to the title yet?
No.
No.
Pretty much name drop it immediately in the movie at some point. I won't say who says it, but
Yeah, I was sick of that shit as soon as that happened.
Venom, Let There Be Carnage, directed by Andy Serkis, who, of course, you know as Gollum and King Kong and Ulysses Claw. He's been around forever, obviously mocap king. And he helms not his first movie, but probably his biggest movie to date. It stars Tom Hardy, Woody Harrelson, Michelle Williams, Naomi Harris, Reed Scott, Stephen Graham, the sequel to 2018's Venom, which was a massive hit, financially, not critically. This one has been getting better reviews. It is way shorter. It's about 90 minutes, and it basically is about Eddie and Venom learning to coexist. It's not really going all that well. They're about a year into their tenure together. They basically spend the first half of the movie arguing, and then the second half of the movie is basically defending themselves against Cletus Cassidy, who is a serial killer.
Nate, doesn't Andrew already sound tired? He's already tired of this movie.
It's like kind of hard to sum up, surprisingly, because it's like, I'll give the movie this. It's simple. Not a lot happens.
No.
Cletus Cassidy, he gets infected with Venom's blood, and then he becomes Carnage, who is a red symbiote, who is extremely dangerous and has a lot of different power sets that Venom doesn't have, which begs the question, if he comes from Venom, why doesn't Venom have said power sets?
Yeah, I was going to say, not that you made this up, but a lot of things you said, which do happen in the movie, I'm not sure make that much sense.
Yeah.
But anyway.
We'll get into it here.
Yeah, we will. We will.
Jake, why don't you start, since you're running hot here?
Yeah, Venom, Let There Be Carnage. That's the last time I'll say the full title. Venom 2 suffers from that sure, let's go with it storyline. Like, I guess this has to happen in order to move the plot forward. I'm not sure it makes sense, but I guess it has to happen. But then the movie's not fun enough to work with that kind of story. So you end up scratching your head, and then it ends up being too silly at times. And then there's some horrible dialogue. They force the word carnage in way too many times. And then there's just leaps in logic. There's plot holes. And then you just hope that Tom Hardy and Woody Harrelson can do the best that they can to save this movie. And I guess they do their best. But even then, I've seen Tom Hardy in better. Certainly. I've certainly seen Woody Harrelson better. Like for me, the first one is watchable because Tom Hardy is so off his rocker at times that it's kind of entertaining. This one is not quite the same in that. So I don't know. I didn't really have a whole lot of fun with this. I was I went in with low expectations and I was still disappointed.
I agree with some things you said, and then there are certain points where I'm willing to give the movie a little bit more credit. But Nate, why don't you go first?
Yeah, just for the record, when it came to the original Venom, we all gave it damp lawn chairs, and we all said that Tom Hardy was fun, and that was about it.
We said that for like 45 minutes.
Yep. Specifically, Jake, I actually recall him saying the same sentence about 67 times, and they cut about 30 from the pod.
I try to be positive, and that's all the positive I had.
This time around, they made the Venom Eddie dynamic more fun, a lot more comedic. There was a lot of comedy in the first one too, but they really dig their heels in here. And I will say that's probably to the movie's benefit. This movie needed something, because the rest don't work, man. Woody Harrelson is awful. I love him.
That's where I was gonna go. Like, Jake started to give Woody credit, and I was like, nah, he kind of sucked.
Oh my god, he was atrocious. Like we said it in the trailer, like, I hope he's got like a really cool Carnage voice or something, or they're withholding something where he gets to just go all out and all ham like Tom Hardy did in the original. But no, he just sucks the entire way through. He's an awful character within the context of the movie as a serial killer. And as an actor, like, there's nothing fun to grab onto. We've seen so many sociopaths over the course of the last 10 years of movies, because movies have gotten more violent, and I've been seeing a lot more of them. This is not no Heath Ledger Joker.
No.
No, and I don't think that's fair to him to have expected that, given the level of writing on display.
It's not even hammy. It's not even campy. It's just like,
it's just one note.
I'm bad and whiny.
Right.
The whole way through.
But before we just shit talk, generally one of the better actors working today, I want to throw out the M word. Was he miscast? Because I feel like he was miscast.
I think it's a combo. I would say yes, miscast, but I would say there's not really a whole lot to that character anyway. He loves this crazy woman.
Yeah, I didn't even mention her. Naomi Harris plays Shriek, who is a villain from the comics. Basically, her power set is she yells loud.
Screams loud enough to make you deaf, I guess.
She's the Black Canary of the MCU.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I would say miscast. I think there are people who could have done a better job, but I don't think Carnage was well written. What's his name? Cletus Cassidy is just a crazy man who wants to be with his crazy woman, and then he somehow, I don't think this makes a whole lot of sense, ends up with a symbiote that is different than Venom, even though it's from Venom, like Andrew said. And I still don't think that blood thing works, but I don't know. I'm not a scientist. Anyway.
Whatever.
Whatever. And then Carnage is just like, rawr. And he's like, yeah, I want to get Eddie Brock now. Like, whatever, man. Like,
Yes. I would like to discuss that further later. That specific last point you made. Because I don't really understand a lot of that. Nate, do you have more to say in your intro, or can I go?
Just go off, King.
So here's the thing. The movie deserves credit for realizing the strengths of the original and leaning into that a lot. This movie is the positives of the first, but like triple that. But it also is the negatives of the first and double that. So it like evens out to a better movie, but it's still not a good one. Hardy playing with himself as Venom, still the highlights. There's a lot more of that in this one. The movie is funny at points, shockingly funny at points. And then there are other points where it's just like you just get the fatigue of it going on and on. Venom looks cool. Carnage, design-wise, looks cool.
I guess.
Probably where it ends. It's an oxymoron here because it's like I'm happy that it's so short, but the movie itself is just insanely rushed. Like,
yes,
it realistically, the difference between, and spoiler alert for my rating, the difference between damp lawn chair and wooden seat might be 10 more minutes of development, but like, who even knows if that would have even mattered.
I think that's important. 90 minutes versus 105 could be the difference, like you said, could be the difference between a rushed, kind of sloppy movie and a movie that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, but then you make the argument, was this movie broken to begin with, and they just are kind of salvaging the wreckage, and it's I mean...
Yeah, but it's not like 145 is long. If this movie was like 2 and change, yeah, you can cut it, but 145 is always acceptable.
Yeah, neither Venom nor Venom Let There Be Carnage I will ever mention in the conversation of the worst superhero movies ever made. No. But they exist in this vacuum of mediocrity in the middle. This movie is just so lame at points, and everything you guys are mentioning is true. The Carnage character doesn't work. I don't know why we brought back Michelle Williams just for her to not do anything again. Like,
no, it's for the she-Venom thighs one more time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which that is a bit that I like. So I'm kind of glad they brought that back too.
Bonk.
It's the DJ playing Party Rock Anthem by LMFAO over and over again. And it's like, okay. I mean, like, this song's catchy, but can we, like, do something else? Like, yeah. It's like...
So I guess, like, the question is, why do these movies keep doing so well? Are these the new Transformers and people are just thirsty for more branding? I don't know.
I don't get how the first movie made $800 million. I don't understand it. I just, like, people are nostalgic for mid-2000s blockbusters all of a sudden, but people forget that those movies were bad. It's like...
Yeah. or they just really, really like Spider-Man and anything remotely connected to Spider-Man.
I don't know. I heard some Deadpool comparisons, which I sort of understand, but Deadpool's obviously way better in terms of like Venom is just kind of like off his rocker, and Tom Hardy's trying to like live in the real world, so kind of.
Right, and the movie again, it does lean more into those Deadpool aspects, but the problem is it doesn't commit at all.
No, like it was a little bit funnier. Like I guess I like this one better than the first one. I guess I do, but not by a lot. I wouldn't say it's inherently bad, although it's got some bad stuff in it, but it's never really good. It's just kind of consistently okay, and then some. That was dumb. That didn't make sense. They absolutely should have rewritten that or cut that out. You know?
Yeah. I think this is the fun type of movie where we can pick it apart once we get more into spoilers. So let's do ratings quick and let's go in. Nate, what would you rate this one?
Damp lawn chair. Don't see it in theaters.
Yeah. Nice and easy. There you go. Jake.
Damp lawn chair. Don't see it in theaters.
I'm not singing, but yeah. I will say...
We'll get him one day, Jake.
Come on.
I will say damp lawn chair, close to wooden seat. So I think I probably liked it the best of the three of us. Still didn't really like it very much, though. I'm not gonna go to war for this one, because it doesn't deserve it. So let's go into spoilers and talk about why it doesn't deserve it.
Whoa! Oh, spoiler alert!
Spoiler! Spoiler! Excuse me! Spoiler alert!
Okay, can we just get out of the way the post-credit scene? Because that's what everybody's like, bro, that was epic. You know, and they forget the 90 minutes that came before it.
Literally, the Reddit thread for this is the first 20,000 comments is only about the post-credit scene. And then there's a little piece saying, like, why does Carnage want to be with the one woman who can totally destroy his symbiote?
I know, right? Like, that was a big thought. I was like, this obviously is not going to work. I don't know how you guys don't see this.
Not to defend this movie, but isn't that kind of what ends up being their downfall? Carnage is like, yo, this girl. And Cassidy's like, wait, no.
Cassidy's like, no, this girl, you know?
Right.
What this movie's downfall is the fact that Carnage needs to somehow go to the top of the building to kill off all the main characters, even though they were perfectly dead at the bottom.
Right, he can turn his body into
go.
anything he wants, but he needs to climb to, right.
All right, post-credit scene, then evisceration.
Yes. Okay.
Probably my favorite part of the movie.
Wow. I think the implication's fun. I think the scene itself actually wasn't that good, if I'm being honest.
I kind of laughed, although I don't think it makes sense. He sees Peter Parker on screen and decides he looks yummy, and that's why he wants to go find him.
Some of the worst green screen I've ever seen in my life that Tom Holland is standing in front of.
Whatever. I'm not very excited about this because this is the first time that Sony is full-fledged integrating into the MCU canon, as far as we know, you know? And sometimes, like during Thanksgiving, I don't like my foods to touch because I want to enjoy each bit individually.
How do you not love him?
I've heard that metaphor 3 times in the last week, so it lost its shine. But
I don't want to have to sit through bad Sony movies to get references in the good Marvel movies.
That's
and
fair.
Vice versa.
That's fair.
I don't want to have to pay attention to Morbius or whatever in order to understand No Way Home. I don't think that's going to happen, especially not right out the bat. And if they want to bring in Venom for like 1 or 2 fun kill scenes in an Avengers movie, okay, that's fine.
But then it's like, what's the point?
Yeah, the web is so complicated at this point, and it's fitting that we're talking about Spider-Man and all this. I'm going to start losing interest eventually. I don't know when that moment is. Shang-Chi obviously still proves to me that the Marvel hype is there. But the more convoluted and more homework that you gotta do before each movie comes out, the harder it is to keep up. And having to pay attention to the Sonyverse and the Marvelverse now doesn't make me feel like a happy viewer. It makes me feel like a consumer, and that's not how I want to feel at the movies.
I do feel that. I can already barely keep. Once Marvel started announcing TV shows, I was like, I might be in trouble. I can go see these movies in theaters, but if I'm expected to watch all these shows now too, I might be in a little trouble. I can't keep up with everything. I can barely keep up now. So Nate, I agree with you there because, well, and that's the other thing. The Sony movies have not been that good. So I don't necessarily want to keep up with them. That being said, I am excited to see Venom in this because Marvel's making the movie, not Sony. Tom Hardy is getting his Venom debut in a Marvel movie.
So back up. Are you implying that he's in No Way Home? Is that what you think is happening?
You don't think he's in No Way Home?
I don't know.
What do you think the post-credit scene was implying?
That he'll show up eventually.
Well, wasn't he warped to an alternate, another universe? Wasn't that what happened?
Yeah, but they got to get him there for future movies. I didn't take that as he's definitely in No Way Home.
Yeah, like you got to remember that Sony was considering moving Venom 2 back to January, meaning it wasn't necessary to view
you're right.
these
All right,
in
I'm not
this
as excited
order,
anymore.
you know?
Never mind.
Yeah, it's just implying that this is going to happen eventually.
Exactly.
Now I'm not as excited because I thought that was implying we're going to get Venom in No Way Home, which I was like, oh, cool. Biggest Spider-Man crossover ever. I'll take it.
See, if it was guaranteed that it was only No Way Home, I wouldn't care so much.
I see.
Because,
I see.
Like, I can see Doctor Strange's spell or whatever. We haven't really talked about the No Way Home trailer on this pod yet, but assuming all the fun cameos we're expecting get wrapped up in that movie and we don't have to worry about those characters ever again, that's cool. And Venom can show up for that. But
that's what I was expecting. I was kind of surprised you guys were like, not for it, but now I totally understand.
Yeah.
No, I never said I wasn't for it. I just like...
Just not as hyped. I was like, that seems really cool that he might be in No Way Home. But if you guys are right and that's not the case, then I'm definitely not as excited. And I am definitely sticking with my damn Blanchett rating.
Because it all hinges
I was going to say, did that move the needle? We need to talk about the text of the movie.
It's just the the big positive, the big excitement for me just went away. Thanks, guys.
It's just like...
I'm kidding.
And we've had this discussion before. I don't have the same concerns as you guys do as we integrate more and more characters, because I think that the way the movies are going to be designed, it's very much going to be like, they're going to make it idiot-proof / like very casual viewer friendly. So you won't have to see the other movies to understand like the broad strokes of this is this character, this is why they're integrated. But it will be like extra oomph for a lot of the characters. Like, for example, if we're talking about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and Wanda being in that, I don't think you're going to have seen all 10 episodes of WandaVision to understand what's going on. I think they'll catch you up.
Wouldn't you have to watch Falcon and Winter Soldier to get Captain America 4, though?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think they'll do a recap.
It's all about, I mean, I guess, but I feel like that one's going to be about Sam being Captain America. He comes into that in the show. How can you I feel like you kind of have to watch it.
Right, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier is ostensibly a prequel comic that leads into that main adventure, I think is what it's going to end up being.
I would feel super nervous going as Captain America 4 without having seen that show.
Okay, well, you're not everybody. You know what I mean? Like, the general audience is...
Yeah, you're right most of the time. I don't know that you're right with this. I think their shows seem pretty intertwined at this point, and I do have a concern. We have to see where they go, but I don't know.
I think it's impossible to know at this point.
Yeah,
obviously.
We're trying to see into the future.
I'm in wait and see mode.
Yeah, we have to see into the future. I have a concern.
Let's go back to Venom, Let There Be Carnage, because we needed to get that out of the way.
Do we have to?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do, because we haven't talked about the movie itself
really
that
much.
We're like, no. What else? What do you guys think was really funny?
Venom at the rave, I thought was probably my favorite scene.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I enjoyed that.
It went on a beat longer than it needed to, with him standing in front with the open mic.
Oh, I like that. I thought that was funny.
All right.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of been a consensus favorite scene for a lot of people.
Teach his own.
Again, it's skip. What would you have rather done? Another Carnage Shriek scene? I'd rather they hang out there.
Oh God, no. I guess my humor came more from the Venom Eddie banter and less Venom on his own, if that makes sense. But I like the scene as a whole. It just went on a beat too long for me, but that's my personal preference. The fight in the apartment was my favorite comedic moment of the movie, with like the 2K TV getting thrown out the window and the bike getting
where he breaks his nose twice.
Yep, so I can break it again. Yeah. Boom! Like that was great. That was my kind of humor.
Yeah, for me though, the Venom, like, that was good, but I have little, and I don't know if you guys are gonna go with me on this, but I have little pet peeves where, like, I know this is about a symbiote that is controlling a man, but it still has the logic in the movie still has to make sense, and I have pet peeves when it doesn't add up. So, for example, in the beginning when he's talking to the police detective, and there's clearly he's talking to Venom in front of the police detective. Like, there's obviously something wrong with him from the police detective's eyes, and then nothing happens because the plot has to move forward. Like, that irks me. That needs to be touched up.
Well, what do you mean nothing happens? I mean, like, the
police detective just side-eyes him, and, like, you're a weird dude,
well, I mean,
and then
he's
that's
suspicious of him the whole movie. But yeah, I don't know what
but he just, like, side-eyes him. If I was having a conversation with somebody and all of a sudden they started to lose their mind and talk to themselves, I would be like, what the Are you okay? Mm-hmm. He just gets a look and then, like, basically, like, scratches his chin and goes, something's weird about him.
Mm-hmm. Actually, weird tangent on the police captain. Maybe it's just me being dumb. I didn't know he was, like, investigating Eddie. I thought he was, like, Eddie's boss at the paper he was working at for the first 30 minutes of the movie.
Oh,
and
really?
then when he, like, shows up with a gun drawn, I'm like, oh, wait, no, I totally misread this character.
Yeah, Eddie doesn't work anywhere, right? He's still unemployed.
He says something like, if you have
even though
any...
he's this, like, beautiful San Francisco apartment.
Yeah.
Oh, you misunderstood when he was like, if you have leads.
Exactly right. That's what I was asking. Yeah,
I see.
when the character was asking him for leads in the investigation, I thought he was looking for, like, leads so I can put it in my story. And the reason he got so furious for Eddie publishing it was because he didn't get any sense out of it.
What a newsie.
Obviously wrong, but...
Yeah, LEDE lead.
That's how quickly the plot moved, I guess.
Yeah, I thought everything with him kind of sucked, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't know how the movie expects you to think that he was the guy that helped Shriek, or, like, you know, he was responsible for Shriek's capture or whatever happened.
He took a blast at point blank from her scream. He should be dead, not deaf.
And he's, like, not even deaf. He's got a hearing aid. He's like, he's like, all right. He made out pretty well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, what does Carnage want? Like, what's his deal? Just go be Carnage. Like, why are you so mad at Eddie?
Exactly. I used the Joker comparison because that's a character who just reveled in the chaos of things, and that's what I expected Carnage to be. Carnage having to spend the entire movie just pining after his girlfriend is so dumb.
Well, I thought Cletus Cassidy was like, oh, you did bad journalism, and I want to tell my story, and you didn't tell it right, so now I'm coming after you. And then Carnage was just kind of like, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's my point. Like, what?
I
He's
guess,
just like, he's like, hello, father, and it's like, all right, like...
Was it like, I don't know, I'm trying. Maybe it was like, hey, kill this guy Eddie Brock for me, and then I'll let you live in my body, eat whoever you want. Is that what it was? We shouldn't have to be finding out on the podcast, but...
They said something like that in the car ride, I think. Where, like, we both got something we want from the other. Let's work together kind of thing.
It's the same conflict as Riz Ahmed and Shocker, or whatever the name of the Venom was in, or the symbiote was in the first Venom, where it's like...
Grey Goo guy.
Yeah, Grey Goo guy, yeah. Where it's like, they're not compatible, but Eddie and Venom are, and it's like, well, if they're not compatible, why are they still together? Like, I get, like, one feeds off the other's power, I guess, but, like, I don't know. So much of it is so undercooked that it's like...
Yep.
I do think the action was a little bit better in this one than the first one.
They lit them up a little bit more this time.
Yeah.
A lot of the scenes take place at night, but there's at least lights instead of mist.
And like, the way Carnage... Like, some of Carnage's kills, I thought, were pretty cool at times. Or, like... When they're first driving off and he's, like, taking out the cars that are tailing him, I was like, oh, that was pretty cool, I guess.
Can we all agree, though, that the prison break tornado move looks stupid as hell?
Oh, I forgot about that.
I'm gonna spin around so fast that I make a whirlwind straight out of frickin' Pokemon.
It's the second grade. Look how fast I am.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to Eddie and Venom being together, like, they like, ostensibly break up. The movie's obviously a love story between the two of them. Very sweet.
Sure.
I was on Venom's side a little bit. Eddie's got to let him eat people. He's like basically starving Venom. I mean, let him eat the bad guys. Why not?
I guess it's the whole, like, who are we to say who's bad, you know?
Yeah.
Murderers are pretty bad.
Well, I mean, Tony Soprano's a murderer. Would you let him meet him?
Yeah. Yes, I would.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then there you go.
If I didn't follow him for 75 episodes, I wouldn't like him.
Well, right. That's the thing.
Yeah. Like, there's a very fine line with assigning the death penalty to people you meet.
Yeah.
Like, I get that he's the anti-hero story. I wouldn't mind if he embraced more the villainous side and ate more people in
It would make a more
movies.
interesting movie.
I agree with that. So, having him play the full hero and not eat people makes for a pretty boring movie.
Or let Venom take over. Like, nah, I'm over this. And then him and Eddie are like fighting about that.
I wish when Venom was jumping from person to person, we got a little bit more of that. You know what I mean? Like him in control and like trying to basically splurging and going through all the breakup toxic traits that like people go through. You know, that would have been fun. I do think it's funny that he eventually makes his way to Mrs. Chen. And I thought that scene was pretty amusing.
I gotta laugh out of that too. And I didn't expect it at first. Like when they're talking to her, I was like, she's being weird. Oh. Why is she being weird? Oh, okay. Yeah, I like that too. There we go. There's some positives.
Yeah. I would have appreciated just a little bit more creativity with some of the action scenes. Like, I get that they had to keep it PG-13 because they're all about the money that PG-13 makes.
Of course.
But
and it worked out. I mean...
and money-wise, yes, it worked out. But quality-wise, like, the kills are also boring because everything happens off-screen. Like, everyone's just getting stabbed just out of frame. Even, like, the eating of people just all happens out of frame. And when your villain is Carnage, who is literally chaos incarnate, blood and gore everywhere, I'm gonna stab all the things. It equated to just like, oh, there's gonna be sticky red stuff in the corner of your screens here and there, and we're gonna say we ate somebody and move on. It's boring. I'm not even really a blood and gore person, but this was such a soft PG-13.
I hope Andy Serkis does other better things.
I don't think any of the issues with this movie are Andy Serkis' fault.
I don't know if it's his fault, but like this could have used an entire facelift.
But like that's the writing then, I think.
But I mean, there are times when like a script's not that great and a really talented director makes it better, you know?
Yeah. It certainly is not a ballsy movie, but I feel like we knew that going in. And again, I feel like that goes beyond Andy Serkis. I don't know. I think you got to start from the top and be like the whole concept of us making this movie in the way that we decided to make it. Like
it was a good use of their one F-bomb, though. I'll give them that. When they finally get rid of Cassidy.
Yeah, that the F-bomb in the first movie was so weak that I'm glad that they used it better here, right? All right, I think we're running out of steam here.
Oh yeah,
a lot of gaps here. So let's wrap it up here. Jake, final thoughts on Venom: Let There Be Carnage.
Yeah, a little bit better than the first, but I don't need a third. I'm good if they just cap it at 2. If they want to do Venom again at some point down the road, I'm fine. But like, I don't need this Venom story. I'm done with it. I didn't hate it, but like, I don't know. I wasn't a fan, and I still kind of went in with low expectations. My audience had a really good time. I was not really there for it. I don't know. It's just underwhelming. I'm struggling to come up with positives.
I do think it is important to note that we are all lower than I think general audiences are on these movies. And
yeah, most of my audience was having a great time. I was the odd man. If we all sat down and talked about it for some reason, I'd be the odd man out.
Right. And I mean, critically, this is technically positive. It's 60% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Is it? 60 still? Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Clearly people are enjoying this more.
Yeah.
Nate, you didn't that much more.
No. I never got full mad at this movie, hence the damp lawn chair.
Yeah.
And not the sleazy outhouse, but I was either bored or I was laughing. So if they want to make a third one, you got to keep leaning into the comedy and just make the story Tom Hardy and Eddie Brock focused, I think. Because without a Spider-Man, the villains here are weak, and the weak structure around these characters is even worse, to the point where it's borderline travesty and at best mediocre. So let's do better. Venom's a fun character. Tom Hardy's a good actor.
Yeah.
We can do it, but not this movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a drag and drop of what I said about the first movie, but on steroids a little bit. Tom Hardy deserves credit for not phoning this in and bringing as much energy as possible to both Eddie and Venom. And he really elevates a lot of the bad material. And there is still a lot of bad stuff. There's just less bad stuff this time. I still wouldn't recommend it per se, but I wouldn't scream and beg and tell people definitely don't see it. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to watch it, you're going to watch it. It is what it is. So that's Venom, Let There Be Carnage. By the way, I just to bring it to a nice bookend, like, the fact that Cletus basically says that line is exhausting.
I wanted to, like, God, my eyes rolled so hard I thought I was going to crack my orbital bone. I was like, stop saying that. It doesn't work. Stop it. Leave it alone.
Right. All right, well, that'll do it for this review and for our marvelous episode here on the Middle Seats podcast. Before we go, Nate Lungrini, where can they find us on the internet?
Alrighty. Here's how you can get in touch with us. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Middle Seats. You can also listen to us on the go on all your podcast platforms, including SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. For questions, comments, and updates on the show, keep an eye on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at The Middle Seats. And if you like what you hear and want to see more content, let us know and spread the word.
Heading into the home stretch of 2021, we've got a lot of big movies coming down the pipe. We're going to cover as many as possible for you. You can put it on your calendar now. We're definitely going to be talking about Dune at some point. You can definitely guarantee we're going to be talking about Eternals and Spider-Man No Way Home. The rest, we're going to get as much to you as possible. Thanks for joining us, as always. For Nate Lingarini and Jake Hensler, I'm Andrew Auger. Keep that seat warm, everyone. We'll be back soon. So let's go into spoilers and talk about why it doesn't deserve it.
He almost went there.
I've sung on the podcast before.
I want that on record.
Yeah, I want to hear that.
Ah.